Hello everybody, my name is Michael Wagner. I teach at the Westphal College of Media Arts and Design at Drexel University in Philadelphia, and on this channel I talk about digital media theory, game design and immersive media, in particular immersive audio. This video is just a brief add-on to the two videos I did about Nuendo, and in particular the use of waves and X within Nuendo to monitor ambisonics and Dolby Atmos. Because as it turns out, Steinberg actually put Nuendo on sale shortly after I posted this video. That was not something that I expected or planned for, or I didn't have any information about it. It was just a coincidence. But I wanted to have a brief look at some of the things that are on offer here, in particular on the Immerse system, because one of the things that we did not yet talk about is how the ambisonics decoder actually makes sure that you're getting the best immersive experience possible. And there are certain systems that can aid and help you with that. And one of them is the Immerse system from a company called Embody. In this video, I essentially wanted to just make a very quick review what it is, what it does. Is it useful? Is it worth the price? It's usually going for $190 and it's currently on sale for $114. So that is actually something to look at. But before I do that, I just wanted to spend a brief moment on talking about Nuendo and the potential for a cross-grade if you're coming from Cubase. Now, if you're a Cubase owner and you're interested in Dolby Atmos, for example, any immersive audio format or any surround sound format, then the upgrade from Cubase to Nuendo is actually a very attractive offer. Currently, it's available for $240. I think that is going until June 21st. And that is actually a very inexpensive way to get into Dolby Atmos. So if Dolby Atmos is anything that you're interested in, then this is certainly something you might want to have a look at. Couple of things to consider. First of all, when you're upgrading to Nuendo or cross-grading to Nuendo, you're giving up, at least that's the way it used to be, I'm assuming it still is, you're giving up your Cubase license, you get a Nuendo license. Nuendo has exactly the same functionality of Cubase, but with additional features. The second thing you need to be aware of is that the upgrade with Nuendo come in different intervals. Cubase is usually updated on an annual basis. So they have a 0.5 upgrade every year and then the full upgrade every other year. Nuendo, on the other hand, only does full version upgrades, and the full version upgrades also come slightly after the Cubase upgrade. So last year, Cubase was released, I believe, on November 11, and Nuendo 11 was released on December 10th, so a month after that. The upgrade price in the end is about the same, because with Nuendo you're only upgrading once every other year, whereas with Cubase, if you follow the upgrade path, you tend to upgrade every year. So that's the 0.5 upgrade usually is around $50, and the full upgrade then around $100, and the Nuendo upgrade usually goes for $200. And during the introduction, they also have quite often an intro period. So I personally paid, I believe, $160 for the upgrade from Nuendo 10 to Nuendo 11. So in terms of upgrade costs, that's something that a lot of people are worried about. It is about the same. It is slightly more expensive than Cubase if you follow all the upgrades, but it is not that particularly more expensive. So this is a really, really good option to kind of get into Dolby Atmos and surround sound if that's something that you're interested in, especially considering that the only other option that you have, if you don't want to go with Nuendo, is Pro Tools Ultimate. And Pro Tools Ultimate, you essentially have an entry price of $2,600, and then you pay $400 a year. And on top of everything, you also need to pay for the Dolby Atmos, renderer, for the Dolby Atmos production suite, which is, I believe, an additional $300. So $3,000 on one hand, $240 on the other. So that's certainly something to consider. But this is not why I wanted to make this video. I was actually interested in talking a little bit. Where is it here? I was interested in talking a little bit about the Immerse system and what it actually is and what it does. And in order to get a brief look at that, I'm going to open up Nuendo. I think I already have a session open here. And I didn't really do anything with Nuendo at that point. All I really did is I put in a third order ambisonics bus just to essentially talk about the main principles of what Immerse actually does and what Immerse actually is, and didn't really add anything in addition. That's all we need for now. So let's have a look at the AmbiDecoder. The AmbiDecoder is essentially that piece of software that turns the ambisonics files or the ambisonics signal into a binaural signal that I can hear in my headphones. And when it does that, when it converts the ambisonic signal into something that I hear in my headphones, what it usually needs to do, it needs to take into account the physiology of my head, of my hearing system, so my ears and how everything is shaped. And that is what's called a head-related transfer function, or an HRTF. That is sort of the function that turns the generic ambisonic signal into something that I can hear in my head and I can actually recognize as a three-dimensional representation of what's on the outside. So these HRTF functions are very important if you want to have a very, very realistic experience. And when you have Nuendo and open up, there are a couple of options that Nuendo has built in. There is a standard HRTF, which is sort of an average, which works on average for everybody. And that's actually not that bad. It actually works quite well. And then they have standard formats for Facebook and YouTube. Those are two systems that have their own standard HRTF functions that they use. We're actually going to talk a little bit about Facebook in the next video that I'm going to post next week. And YouTube does the same. Now, for some reason, you only see the Facebook as an option. If you're having a second or third order ambisonics track, whereas YouTube is only available if you have a first order ambisonics track. The reason for that is that YouTube actually needs a first order ambisonics track for it to work, whereas Facebook, once again, we're going to have a look at that next week. Facebook uses a mixed order ambisonics format, which is essentially almost second order ambisonics, but more about that next week. And then you have what's called a spatially oriented format for acoustics. That's also something you can use. So you can load a SOFA file, a spatially oriented format for acoustics. I'm not going to talk about that here. And the final option here is the Immerse. And what Immerse really is a possibility to have a head-related transfer function that is specifically designed for your ear physiology. So it tries to figure out exactly what your ear or what sounds do I need to present to your ears so that you get the most realistic representation possible. Now, the way it does it is through an artificial intelligence algorithm. So what you need to do is you need to take a picture of your ear, you upload it to a website, and then there's an artificial intelligence system in the background that analyzes your picture of the ear and returns an head-related transfer function back to you. Once you've done that, you essentially can go to Immerse here, and I have my profile here, and I can simply say, I'm Michael Wagner, I'd like to have my profile, and then essentially hear it in a way that is most realistic to the way my ears essentially work. Right. That sounds all very perfect in principle. So there are a couple of caveats, and I need to talk about them in a moment. It did not really work quite well for me, but that could just be the way essentially my ears are, that there's something a little bit weird about the way I hear. But more about that later. Now, in terms of how would you actually do the upload, the way this works is you have a little application, and when you open up this application, so you're connected with your profile on the Embody website, and you can click on. I'm not going to do that now because essentially then you can see my profile information. But if you click on Submit New Image, what you will be presented with is a QR code. Then that you can then scan into your phone, and that will take you to a website which will access your camera on your phone, and then you essentially take a picture of your right ear, and you click on Submit. If the picture doesn't work, it gives you the option to retake it, so you don't have to you don't have to be worried that it kind of sends it immediately. So you can have a look at it, and if it works, you send it. If it doesn't work, you can wait and do another picture, and then you send it, and it takes maybe 10 seconds, and then the profile is downloaded to your system and ready for you to use. There are a couple of things that I liked about that. The first one is that it's really very usable in that sense. Everything is very smooth and works very well. I never had any issues kind of connecting to that. The things that I don't like is that you only have 5 possibilities to upload your image. So it's if you need to make sure that that you're taking or that you're actually uploading an image that works. If you're uploading images that are not correctly taken, or the lighting is not correct, and the profile that comes back is not working, well, you only have 5 possibilities to do that, which for me is a little weird why they did it, slightly annoying. And I actually used up 3 submissions, and I'm going to talk about that in a bit, but it actually ended up not really working particularly well for me, and I needed 3 tries in order to get it to some point where I could actually use that. Now, in terms of the impressions that I'm getting when I'm changing my my head-related transfer function to the immerse function, the impression that you're getting is suddenly a lot more immersive, in the sense that it is a lot more realistic. The position of the objects is a lot more accurate. So all the head-related transfer functions work to some extent, but the Immerse system does indeed give you a very, very accurate directional information also for the things that are behind you. It gives you a much more immersed feeling, similar to for example, if you're familiar with the Goodhertz Can Opener plugin, so crossfeed plugins in stereo, where you're mimicking a speaker setup with stereo headphones. So you're kind of simulating the crossfeed that happens between the 2 different speakers in the 2 different ears, and this immerse function does something similar. So it feels a lot more realistic. The main issue that I had, and that is really, really unfortunate, that in my particular case, and I'm not completely sure if that is a bug in the system or if that is something that was just particular to my personal profile, is that the information that came back and the profile that came back produces a slightly different tonal balance between my left and my right ear. So the left ear is a slightly warmer tonal signature than the left ear. The left ear is the right ear. The right ear is a little bit harsher. And that ends up being fairly annoying, and there's also no reason why that should be. Now, I was a little bit concerned that might have something to do with my hearing, so I did a lot of tests, kind of swapped headphones around, so that I heard the left on my right ear and the right speaker on my left ear, changed all the cables, used different headphones, but it was persistent, so it was actually in the signal. So it did something that changed the tonal balance in a way that made it uneven between the left and the right. And that is annoying. Now, I reached out to Embody, and to their credit, they were very fast in coming back to me, and they said that they are working on this issue. And I'm not quite sure, though, if it means they're working on it because I asked them to, and that's something that's only particular to me, or if that's an issue they have been aware of all along, and it's a more common problem. In any way, if you're using the Immerse system, the one thing that I really, really recommend you do is try it out first. If it works for you, great. It's a great addition. If it does not work for you and you're running in similar issues that I did, you might want to reconsider purchasing that. Now, so what are the main advantages of having Immerse? Well, first of all, it does increase the perceived immersion. So it does help. It gives you a much better detail in terms of the directional information. It gives you a more realistic environment. It's also deeply integrated in Nuendo, and that's something that's really important. So you don't have to worry about there are no plugins involved. You just kind of set it up once, and Nuendo will always remember that and will always use that. So it does have its advantages. Now, what are the disadvantages? Now, Disadvantage, first of all, and that's important to understand, it requires the AmbiDecoder, the Nuendo AmbiDecoder. And if you followed my 2 Nuendo tutorials where we used WavesNX, you know that in order to use WavesNX, we actually had to disable the AmbiDecoder. And that essentially means that the Immerse system does not work with the WavesNX setup that we did the last 2 videos. And that is a bummer, quite frankly, because I would really like to have both and be able to use the WavesNX head tracking system and simultaneously have the Immerse head-related transfer function. I'm currently trying to figure out a way where it might be able to do that. People have actually hacked the WavesNX tracker and turned the WavesNX signal into an OSC signal. And there should be a possibility to pipe that OSC signal into Nuendo. I have, however, not yet been successful in actually doing that. So if any out there knows a way how to use the WavesNX tracker with an OSC communication protocol and use the OSC server settings in Nuendo for head tracking, I would be really interested to learn how you guys did that. I have so far not been able to do that, but I'm close. So I'm confident that at some point I will be able to do that. And in case I'm successful, I will post a video about that. So it does not work with the WavesNX setup. So the other disadvantage is it's fairly expensive. $200 is a lot for what is essentially a head-related transfer function. It's nothing more, nothing less. So you need to be aware of that. It only allows 5 images to upload. So if you like me had an issue and tried it multiple times, you are running out of potential uploads very, very quickly, and that is very unfortunate. And it's also, quite frankly, I don't understand why that's necessary, but I'm not Embody, so I'm not quite sure what the logic is behind that. I'm assuming that they want to avoid that multiple people can use that simultaneously, but I don't know. It's one of those things. I had the tonal imbalance between left and right ear. You might not have that. It might really be something that is particular to my setup. I have no clue. I'm currently, once again, trying to work with Embody to figure out what the problem is. And hopefully we will be able to figure out a solution. If not, then that actually is a little bit of a bummer. It makes it almost unusable for me. But those are the disadvantages. So is it actually worth it? I would say at $200, probably not. That is actually a lot of money for just that additional perceived quality increase in immersion. The head-related transfer functions that are included with Nuendo, in particular the Facebook one, are actually relatively good. So you will not really miss anything if you don't have it. You know, it does add, once again, a little bit to the quality of the image that you're getting, but it's not really necessary to do anything. So it's a luxury rather than a requirement. And I do believe that $200 is a little much. 114, like currently in the sale, is a different story. So that might actually be something to consider. The other thing you need to think about is if you're using the WavesNX system the way we did it in the last 2 videos, the WavesNX actually has an option to personalize the head-related transfer function. It is not as sophisticated as the Immerse system. It does not have any artificial intelligence included, so you're essentially just measuring the distances between your ears and things like that. But it does have some personalization options, and that works actually pretty well. So if you're monitoring this WavesNX, I would also suggest that you really try out the personalization function in WavesNX and see if that gives you a result that is maybe good enough, or maybe even as good as the Immerse function is. So in conclusion, I think it's a luxury, quite frankly. I think it's if you're a professional who needs to produce immersive audio as part of their job, and it's a job-related expense, then yeah, sure. If you are a hobbyist who is essentially trying to make the best out of his or her money, then that's probably too much of a luxury. I would probably not go that route. In any case, I would strongly advise you to try before you buy, so that you see if it works for you, if you have the same issues that I have, and if you like it, then essentially, this is an excellent opportunity to pick it up. And that is essentially everything I wanted to say. This time was a little bit more of a talking head video. I hope this was not too boring, and this was okay. In any case, in the next video, I'm going to take a change in direction. I'm going to talk about Facebook 360 and the audio format that they use there, which is actually quite interesting. And other than that, do all the things that people do on YouTube, like, subscribe. And if you have any questions, drop a comment in the comment section, or drop me a note, and I'll try to get back to you as quickly as I can. And other than that, see you at the next video.